Millfield, Missouri, a town where most people don't lock their doors at night, was the kind of place where everyone knew your name, your dog's name, and your business. That's why when Emily Caldwell, a 32-year-old ER nurse at Millfield General Hospital, failed to show up for her 6 a.m. shift on a brisk October morning, it set off alarm bells almost immediately. Emily had worked at the hospital for nearly 8 years. She was punctual to a fault, the kind of nurse who baked cookies for her patients' families and stayed late to cover for colleagues. When the hospital called her cell and got voicemail, they assumed maybe her car had broken down. But by noon, her best friend and fellow nurse Tanya Reeves called the police. Emily's small rented cottage on Pine Hill Road was quiet. Her car was in the driveway. Her keys and purse were inside, and the front door was unlocked. Nothing seemed disturbed except for the coffee pot, which still sat half full and cold. Her bed was neatly made. Her phone was found on the kitchen counter, battery drained. Millfield's sheriff, Dale Mercer, immediately suspected foul play, but the absence of any signs of struggle was baffling. There were no footprints, no fingerprints out of place. It was as if Emily had simply vanished. Local news ran the story with the headline, "Beloved nurse missing without a trace." Candlelight vigils were held, and posters with Emily's smiling face were stapled to every telephone pole. The entire town was shaken to its core. 2 days after her disappearance, a local farmer reported seeing Emily talking to someone in a red pickup truck on the side of Route 17 the morning she vanished. The sighting came around 5:20 a.m., about 40 minutes before her shift. He assumed it was someone offering help, maybe a neighbor or friend. Sheriff Mercer and his team combed through traffic cameras. Sure enough, a grainy image showed a red Ford F-150 parked on the shoulder. But the license plate was unreadable. The vehicle seemed old, and the driver wore a ball cap pulled low. A tip line was opened. Dozens of people claimed to recognize the truck. Most leads went nowhere, until one caller mentioned Tommy Fields, Emily's ex-boyfriend from nearly a decade ago. Tommy Fields was a mechanic who'd briefly dated Emily when they were both in their early 20s. It had ended badly, according to Tanya, with Emily filing a restraining order after Tommy had allegedly stalked her for weeks. The order had long expired, and Tommy had moved to another town, or so it seemed. Digging deeper, investigators found recent activity on Tommy's credit card just 30 miles away. Sheriff Mercer tracked him to a dilapidated farmhouse near Hannibal. Tommy denied seeing Emily. He admitted still thinking about her, even said he'd seen her in passing weeks before, but insisted he had nothing to do with her disappearance. Without evidence, Mercer had to let him go. Then came the twist no one expected. As the investigation widened, the sheriff's office retrieved data from Emily's laptop. They discovered a series of encrypted messages and emails tied to a secondary email account registered under a fake name. It led them to a disturbing revelation. Emily had been secretly communicating with an inmate at the Jefferson County Correctional Facility, James J. Holloway, a man she had treated in the ER 2 years prior after a bar fight. Jay was serving time for aggravated assault but had charmed many during his stay. The emails revealed an emotional, even romantic connection. Emily had been visiting him under a different name, telling no one, not even Tanya. When questioned, Jay claimed he hadn't seen Emily in weeks. He also claimed she was planning to break things off because she was dating someone new, someone who wouldn't understand. It all came crashing down when Tanya, going through Emily's apartment with her parents, found a handwritten note in a book. "I can't keep living in fear. If anything happens to me, check the guest book at the cabin." Emily's family owned a lakeside cabin in Hollow Bend, rarely used except for summer visits. Investigators rushed there. Inside, they found the guest book, its last entry scrawled in haste. "Tommy was here. I shouldn't have come alone." A search of the surrounding woods turned up freshly disturbed soil not far from the cabin. Underneath, wrapped in a faded quilt, was Emily's body. What came next revealed the true motive. Investigators uncovered therapy records and unsent letters on Emily's computer that painted a clearer picture. Tommy had been emotionally abusive during their brief relationship. He had resurfaced recently, trying to reinsert himself into her life. Emily had tried to keep him at bay, blocking numbers, changing routines, but he found her again. According to notes from her therapist, Emily had planned to confront Tommy at the cabin, hoping to gain closure. But she underestimated how much control he still thought he had over her. Confronted with the evidence, Tommy finally confessed. His motive was rooted in rejection and obsession. Seeing Emily moving on, especially after discovering she was romantically involved with someone else, sent him spiraling. "I gave her everything back then. She was supposed to be mine," he muttered during the interrogation. "And now she's sneaking off to meet some criminal? I couldn't let that happen." He claimed he just wanted to talk. But when Emily asked him to leave and told him she was planning to report him for stalking, he snapped. According to Tommy's full confession, after Emily told him to leave the cabin and made it clear she was going to the police, something inside him broke. He said she was standing on the porch, arms crossed, her voice trembling. Not with fear, but with fury. "I'm done letting you control my life," she had said. "You don't scare me anymore." Those words, Tommy later said, felt like a slap, but it wasn't anger that took over, it was panic. He claimed he didn't plan anything, that he just couldn't think. He followed her back inside the cabin, still pleading, his voice rising. Emily picked up her phone to call the police. That's when Tommy grabbed a heavy ceramic lamp from the side table and struck her from behind. She collapsed instantly. There was no struggle, no second hit, just silence. Tommy stood over her body for nearly a full minute, he said, frozen, breathing hard, his hands shaking. "I didn't mean to kill her," he told investigators. "I just didn't want her to leave." Tommy Fields was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and unlawful concealment of a corpse. In court, he pleaded guilty in exchange for life in prison without parole. Emily Caldwell was laid to rest on a rainy Saturday, with hundreds attending the service. The hospital retired her nameplate, and a scholarship fund was started in her memory for aspiring nurses. Millfield has never quite been the same. People still talk about Emily's smile, her kindness, and the quiet strength she carried. But they also whisper about the secrets she kept, how even in a small town, someone can be living a life no one really knows, and how trust, once broken, can twist into something deadly. But the cabin in Hollow Bend sits empty, and sometimes, when the wind blows just right, the porch light still flickers, like a soul trying to come home.